Welcome to the Monday Movie Club. I'm Jerry Seinfeld. This week, Mark picked Enemy Mine from 1985, which is number 5,633 on the Franken list. The
I like how you said Mark picked because every other time it's been so and so tortured us with.
Forced us, yeah.
Oh, he tortured us, believe me. Right, made us watch is what I normally say.
Yeah.
I am indeed Frank Gaffney, and Joel is here. No Enemy Mine paraphernalia. Mark Wotis Gartner, who has the picture up. It looks like Lou Gossett is pooping there. And Goldfuck and Cringer, sleepy, sleepy, and Annie King in the kitchen where she belongs. All right, Mark, why Enemy Mine?
Because I saw this as a kid and maybe an early adult several times. I remember liking it a lot, and I wanted to see if it stood up as a 50-year-old.
Here's the plot. During a war between humans and the reptilian Drak race, spaceship pilot, played by Dennis Quaid, ends up stranded on an alien world along with an enemy fighter, played by Lou Gossett Jr. in a lot of heavy makeup. The When I worked at 20th Century Fox, my actually 1985 is when I got there, and this was the first movie I worked on
Oh,
after Big. Oh, that was publicity.
no,
This was
this was
this was
2 years
85.
before
Yeah.
Big. Yeah, three.
This was I was in the administration department. Um, okay. This one is a muddled mess of half-baked ideas and underwhelming execution. Maybe not to a 12-year-old. Despite an intriguing premise, the film squanders opportunities at nearly every turn. The pacing is uneven, dragging through a sluggish middle act that feels more like a soap opera than a science fiction movie. And the film attempts to explore racism and tolerance, but with the subtlety of a sledgehammer. Dialogue is stilted and preachy, but tell us how you really feel. And the situations are completely contrived. Oh, good Lord.
Tell us how the person who wrote this review really feels.
Yeah.
Dennis Quaid is at once overwrought and
At once.
stilted. I wouldn't be saying this if I didn't agree with it.
Sure.
While Lou Gossett Jr., buried under heavy prosthetics, he really does try. Unfortunately, their camaraderie is forced and falls flat. And I'm sure the visual effects were fine for 1985, but now they're a little cheap,
Yeah.
cartoonish. It's a clinky, dated relic that just fails, even as a cult curiosity for me. And it was directed by Wolfgang Peterson, who usually is a good director,
Yeah.
but I'm giving this one Das Boot.
Oh,
Frank,
Frank.
Frank, I guarantee you if I put on the Never-Ending Story, you give it less stars than this, and I have no idea what you're giving this.
I
Okay.
was about to say you're giving it Das Boot because it is a never-ending story.
Oh my God. Thank you. So this is my observations while watching. Uh Joey dies in the first. Sorry, Joey.
Jerry.
Um, and Joey was Lance Kerwin, who was James at
Oh, that.
16.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Eating the turtle-like thingy and then spitting out the shell was kind of funny, but then the belch ruined the joke.
Yep.
And I was like, how long is Lou gonna talk this gibberish? It's so weird and annoying.
Yep.
And I was like, oh good Lord. I was checking my watch, another hour left. I'm not fat, I'm not lazy. Cue the music. I await a new life. Oh good Lord. Shocking revelation.
Sounds
But
like me.
so awkward. And then Dennis Quaid has a laughing fit.
Oh my God.
And he says, well, don't look at me. Just in case we thought the two of them were gay and he's having his baby. And then Jerry making the overalls for the baby. Oh my God, how ridiculous. And 15 minutes later, I'm like, have that fucking baby already. Good Lord. And Dennis Quaid's beard was just ridiculous. And then I was all, oh my God, just die already. Let's get on with this. You must open me. I cracked up laughing when he said that. And I'm officially resigning from the Dennis Quaid fan club. He's a terrible actor. How did he last this long? Good
He
Lord.
really was bad, but he had
I
such
had a
good
random
dialogue.
note. I had a random note that I wasn't going to say that. I just wrote down Dennis Quaid equals Kurt Russell, and I didn't really remember why, but I think they both have a tendency to just overact and the beards. I don't know.
I think it's more along the lines of we've just had too much Dennis Quaid
3 in a
This year.
row.
period
Yeah.
of time.
Well, Danny said, and both of them got jobs after this movie?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
I definitely
And-
want to just say that a lot of it for Dennis was terrible dialogue that even Jack Nicholson couldn't say well.
Which Jack Nicholson?
Yeah, exactly. It depends what he was up to. And then Jerry dies, and it's another 40 minutes. Why? Why? Okay, so now he has to teach the baby, who is all of a sudden 7 years old. And why is he calling him uncle? I don't get it. And then Oi with the music when the spaceship landed. And then teaching him football. Why? To watch them bonding. It was so forced. And then, of course, he's a self-hating Drach with 20 minutes to go. Good Lord. And then the Nazis showed up, subtle. And geez, with the narration, I hated it. And then he's the pretty Dennis Quaid again.
Oh my God, he was so pretty at the end.
And then somebody says, let him go if he wants to be an asshole. I'm like, yeah, that's the perfect part for Dennis Quaid. And then a different narrator comes in at the end. And then Dennis Quaid gets to be an honorary Drach. Drach? Why? 2 stars for me, complete torture. Okay. Where's my pen? Moving on. All right, Aim, were you tortured as well?
Well, I can't really say I was tortured because I very much remember this movie. The only 2 things I remembered about it were Dennis Quaid and Lou Gossett Jr. But
I'm
I
sorry.
feel
Is there more to the movie than Dennis Quaid and Louis?
Lou Gossett died, and 40 minutes still to go.
that's my first note was I can't believe how early he died.
Yeah.
For some reason, this movie is really in the back of my mind so much that I actually almost put it on my list this year because it was just one of those movies from
You know, this is probably why, Aim, because I was at Fox. I probably got you passes to go to the screening. It's probably your first screening you ever went to.
Could be, yeah. But something about it is just very memorable, and I must have really, really liked it when I was 19. I had to have. But let me take a quick look at my notey notes. I wrote, besides, I'm surprised at how quickly they killed off Jerry. Also, I love how they managed to find enough food and water for them to survive for what appeared to be a good amount of time, 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah. And then, of course, David was able to feed the baby, no problem. I don't know what
Yeah.
that means. I guess they just had all this food and stuff.
Yeah.
Why are the bad guys always written as stupid, idiotic, bumbling hyenas? Like the 2 guys who, when they saw Zemeckis, that's what I keep calling the kid, wanted to absolutely kill him and also couldn't stop cracking up. Fucking idiots. I called bullshit on him being alive. Come on, you can clearly see he's not. Oh, this was at the end, our hero. You can clearly see he's not breathing. And when he was in prep, if he was alive, he would have been breathing then too. And they would have noticed he was fucking not dead.
Maybe he took that Romeo and Juliet
Right.
potion. That
And
was
when
it.
the absolute dopey and again snotty bad guy tries to take the book necklace, that thing off of him, why on earth would he try to break it off his neck as opposed to just fucking pulling it off? I hate idiotic characters. I think this is my last one. There was a point fairly early on in the movie where I thought Dennis Quaid looked a lot like Harrison Ford. And then an hour and a half in, when he was in the mine wearing a fedora and a rain jacket, I really got confused as to what the fuck 1980s movie I was watching. Because he really looked like Harrison Ford. I just write the stupidest notes, though.
We
So I
appreciate
definitely,
them.
what?
We appreciate them, though.
Oh, so I definitely remember liking it much more at 19 than at 58, but I will still give it 2 3/4 stars, some of it just for the nostalgia factor. And just,
Man.
if it wasn't so poorly written and acted, it would have been such a better movie. I
I
wanted,
think that would be true of any movie, really.
okay, that's a really good point. If it
Annie,
didn't
had you-
suck, it
had-
would have been so good.
Yeah, exactly.
Annie, had you seen this before?
No, not even
Well-
on my radar. Never heard of it.
Oh, wow.
Never heard of it.
Never
All
heard of
right.
it.
Will you ever be seeing it again?
No,
Oh, no.
no. It was definitely homework this week. And I could hear Danny snoring behind me about half hour in, an hour in. Um, but it felt like they could have, it just felt so strange. Like even Star Trek had more realistic things. Like, why are they still having a gun that shoot like there's no lasers, no phasers, nothing?
You have to realize they're only about 40 years ahead of us right now.
Yeah.
So, because it's
Now.
like 90 something.
Yeah, but they've got space travel and stuff that's ridiculous. I wrote down the loud burp was really silly. And I started to try to write notes. And then I was like, I'll be writing the whole movie of all this silly stuff. Forget it. So I stopped writing notes, but it was just really bad acting, terrible dialogue. And like when he went to kill Drac the first time, as he comes down and he's laughing and he's like burned, I was like, oh my God, this is so bad. And then he gets he gets electrocuted and stuff with all this like laser lights, but yet they have guns, like regular guns, just silly. Yeah. So I was like, when is this going to be over already? It was just, yeah, 2 stars for me because just so bad. I was like, I don't know if we watched anything else this bad.
Oh, we have.
Yeah, we have, unfortunately, and most of them were this year. Joel,
Speaking of bad movies,
Um, I've seen this movie before a couple of times, mostly when I was younger. I have not seen it in a good 2 decades, and that's
Joel, I assume you've seen every movie, period.
no, I have not seen every movie. I obviously Annie has picked a couple that I had not seen before, so and I'm sure she'll pick a few that I haven't.
Well, remember when we started out, we actually watched movies that people heard of and liked.
Right.
Remember that?
And now
Okay, people have heard of Enemy Mine.
everyone but Annie.
Yeah.
well, that's not entirely true. It's like when I offered up this movie as an option for our usual viewing with the Yellens. Natasha wasn't going to be here, and they were neither of them had heard of it, and I was like, I'm not going to subject you to that, so we'll go off topic. And I let Sue, she has a list of movies we need to get Dave to see, so we wound up watching Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band instead.
I would have watched that instead of this one.
Anyway, but I have not seen this movie in at least 2 decades, and that's actually having purchased a Blu-ray copy of it to watch at some point. So thank you for having me do that, Mark.
You finally took it out of the shrink wrap, huh?
No, it's been out of the shrink wrap for a while. Just actually worth some money because it's a Fox film that was put out by a boutique label that doesn't exist anymore, and Disney's not going to do anything with it anytime soon. So I could potentially sell it on eBay and make some cash. But anyway,
yeah, Mark would be the one buying it.
no, this is, I don't want to call it a cult film because it's not like it has, like Streets of Fire is a cult film. There are people who really love that movie, and it's been re-released on home video more times than certain blockbusters have at this point.
And Never Running Story is a bit like that. That has a huge cult following.
Yeah. This falls into an odd category. In the late 70s into the 80s, there were a group of science fiction films that came out because everybody was still trying to, okay, what's the next Star Wars? What's the next Star Wars? What's the next Star Wars? But they were all movies that tended to replicate bad 60s sci-fi or even bad 50s sci-fi. And this, unfortunately,
this one is based on a book or a novel or shorts or something.
I had read back in high school or around the time the film came out, because that's what I would do. This looks interesting. It sounds interesting. And
I was going to watch the movie it's based on, but it's not streaming anywhere.
Yeah, it's no, it's based on a book, not a movie.
But there's a movie.
Yes, you just watched it.
No, I could swear I read. Anyway.
The book, it's a better book. for a variety of reasons. One is that whole sequence in the mines at the
The
end.
mine, the
The
mine.
reason it's in the movie is because Frank, your marketing department, was insistent that nobody would understand the title if there wasn't an actual physical mine in the movie.
I never thought it had anything to
Oh,
do
that's
with mine, the
ridiculous.
title.
Marketing departments are
Ridiculous.
constantly thinking that their audiences are
It's
just
stupid.
stupid.
Well,
That's
they're
why-
right. They're right in that.
to an
Go
extent,
ahead.
yes, but it's like that's why we get a James Bond film called License to Kill instead of License Revoked, because they would have assumed, oh, he can't drive anymore, just- or the marketing department blames the failure of the Shawshank Redemption on the title, yet it
Oh,
does
yeah.
amazingly well on home video and becomes one of the best movies ever. But
Because the people who buy home video can read.
this is true. The book is better. It doesn't have that, and I think the ending to me is better too, because when Davich, Dennis Quaid's character, takes Zamis back to the Drac, and he goes through the whole process of naming the legacy of the family, the Drac then decide to take. I think I'm pronouncing it wrong because my brain wants to pronounce it like Drock from Babylon 5 and not Drock from anyway. They want to put Zamis through re-education to stop him from being a human lover. So the entire family, not just Dennis Quaid and the kid, but the entire family leave the planet and go elsewhere to live their lives in peace.
We could have had a sequel.
Exactly. There are short story sequels to this that would never have been made into movies because this flopped at the box office.
All
Right.
right.
Anyway, I'm not going to belabor the point. I think you've all touched on most of what was going on. I remember thinking when I saw it initially, it wasn't a bad movie. It wasn't a great movie. The special effects felt more like a throwback to the, like 60s British sci-fi stuff than American stuff at the time. They obviously don't hold up.
I blame that on Wolfgang.
Well, they don't hold up well. The dialogue is stilted and weird, and I think Louis Gossett Jr. does the best he can under all that makeup. From what I understand, he's actually speaking backwards Russian. It was what the alien language was made up of. So, but there's some oddities there too. If Zamis' only interaction with another humanoid character is Dennis Quaid, why would he have an accent?
Oh yeah, I read that a lot in the trivia. Same with Lou Gossett Jr.'s weird accent.
Well, he would at least have an accent because he grew up in this alien culture and that's how they speak. So when he learns English, he would have this weird accent, but the kid has no contact at all with his species. So he should be talking like Dennis Quaid. Anyway, it's not the worst movie ever made. It's certainly not the best movie ever made. There are a few things that are entertaining about it. It could be one of those movies you get together with some friends, have a few drinks, and MST3K it while you're watching it at this point. So I'm going to give it a 2.5 for a variety of those reasons. But yeah.
Okay.
Joel, I almost put MST3K on my list this year. I'm still considering it next year.
You should. Next year you need to do that. Love at First Bite. Every movie that you consider but dropped, just throw it on the list. Let's get them over with.
Oh boy.
Please no. Okay, Mark, tell us why we're all wrong.
Before I go to my notes, I'd like to remind the four of you that I polled you last year asking, should I put this movie on or An Officer and a Gentleman? This one won out. So
really,
it's your fault.
I'm not complaining about it.
I know, but I'm just saying.
I gave it to
Oh, I'm complaining about it.
Yeah, well, those two. For me, don't worry. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. Joel just said it right. it wasn't the worst movie ever made, but it certainly wasn't the best. The opening battles special effects pissed me off, and I thought I was going to hate the whole movie. The only things I had remembered was, as you guys said, the two leads. I remember him talking in the gargly voice, and I remember him having a kid and dying. That's it. Everything else was new to me. The mask specifically around Louis Gossett Jr.'s mouth was really bad. Makeup, I thought. The enemies become best friends, as you guys said. That trope has been done many times, but I thought it was done well here. The dialogue wasn't great, but I enjoyed the story. And again, I think some of that may be the nostalgia factor because I remember loving it so much as a kid. And I thought it was just sweet their relationship as they bonded. Uh, I appreciated the racism analogies because I missed that as a kid. I was 10 years old when this came out. I had no idea what that would have
The
even meant.
racism?
Yeah.
No, I
Well,
was trying to make a joke, Mark.
oh, okay.
It's the racism, not the analogies of the racism.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Okay. So the racism and learning how to live and learn from your enemies.
Just to point to that real quick, Mark. Sorry to interrupt.
That's okay.
One of the things I did kind of like about the movie is that the themes are still timeless. We're still dealing with this.
I wrote. It's unfortunately still very relevant. Yeah, that's very true. I thought overall it was better than I expected from the opening scene. And I enjoyed the ugly jokes and their bonding. I had zero memory of the last 30 minutes. I thought Louis Gossett Jr. had the baby and the movie basically was over. So I had no memory, and I'd seen it probably 3 times. So um, that's really it. I'm giving it 2.75 stars too. Again, this wasn't my movie. It was just more to rewatch. And
All
see.
right. Well, 2.75 movie does not deserve a picture. I'm telling you that one.
That's the nostalgia factor. How's that?
I get it, Mark.
I
Thank
just
you.
want to add something real quick that I think it was Annie who brought up Star Trek. And they've done this story brilliantly in the Next Generation episode. Paul. I'm thinking of the actor's name and I can't remember. He was in Star Trek 2 as well, but it's the one with Darmok at Talagra and whatever. With Picard and the alien are on the planet and they're trying to communicate with each other. Anyway, there's lots of memes based on it. Anyway, that's a better version of this without the stilted dialogue and stuff. So,
And
Half the
shorter.
length.
and sure.
I originally had a note saying it's very convenient that both of these species can breathe the same air, and then I was like,
Yeah.
well, wait a minute. But look at Star Trek, look at Star Wars. There's a bunch of aliens all in the same room together all the time. So that's just you got to just go with it.
And that's why you all need to watch Babylon 5. It addresses shit like that.
That is
really?
on my list.
I got through a few seasons of that. Okay. That's it for this one. Enemy Mine is not available from your usual subscription services, but Joel has it Blu-ray. He will sell you. You must see it.
Yes, thanks.
Next week. I'm sorry, what?
I said thanks, Disney. It's Disney's fault that this is no longer
Well,
available.
they probably think it's still licensed to the other company, so they're
No, they know what they have from the Fox catalog at this point. They're just
they're like, this sold how many units? Forget it.
yes, but it
I-
references Mickey Mouse. They could be able to sell it based on that. Mickey Mouse's first sci-fi. I don't know.
Okay, here we go.
What's next week, Frank?
Next week, the Monday Movie Club will all be in one space together. We are going to talk about the joyous,
Wonderful.
wonderful Singing in the Rain, 1952, which is number 11 on the Franken list. And
I'm
you
so
can watch
excited for Mark to finally see it.
Yeah, I'm actually excited too.
It's
And
so
you
good.
can-
Annie, you never saw it? Oh my God, it's so good. It's actually a comedy, which you didn't even realize, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's right. You said that. Okay.
Yeah.
and you can watch it on Max. If you want to join us next week, I'll give you Joel's address. That's it for us. Thank you. I guess that's it. Yeah. Go watch a movie.
I know,
Not
so
this
much-
one.
Ah!